Hello and good morning, class 7. Welcome to our today's social studies lesson. Today we are going to start a new subtopic, which is trade. So we are going to be studying trade this week, and maybe also next week we'll also still be looking at trade. So what is trade? We have to start by understanding the meaning of the word trade. In Standard 5 and Standard 6, you've been taught about trade. It is not the first time that you are coming across this word. In class 4, you are in fact, in class 4, you are also taught about types of trade, where you are taught of two types of trade, and that was commercial trade and barter trade. Those were the two types of trade that you were taught in class 4. When you moved in class 5, you discussed more about trade. Class 5, you were taught about the imports and exports. So you know the meaning of an import, and you also know the meaning of an export. If someone asks you the main import into Kenya, you should know that the answer is machinery. And then the main export from Kenya, you should know that the answer is vegetables. So in class 7, we are not going to still talk about that. We are going to learn something new. But before we look at what we are supposed to be learning in class 7, there are a few things that you have. There are two main forms of trade. So we are going to look at forms of trade first. There are two forms of trade. And the two forms of trade include, so number one, we have got internal trade, and then number two, we have external trade. Internal trade is also known as local trade, while external trade is also known as international trade. Let me start with the meaning of internal trade. Internal trade, as I've explained here, internal trade is a trade within a country. For example, if a trader buys goods in Nairobi, and then you go and start selling the goods in Kisumu, that is internal trade. Maybe you buy goods in bulk from Gikomba, or you buy goods in bulk from Isili, and then you take them to Garissa and you start selling them. That is internal trade. Someone gets milk from Eldoret and brings it to Nairobi and starts selling the milk in Nairobi. That is still internal trade. Someone gets camel milk from Mandera and brings it to Nairobi. That is internal trade. Internal trade is a trade which takes place within a country. Trade between people of the same country within the same country. What about external trade? External trade, this is trade between a country and other countries. For example, if we have trade between Kenya, and UK, trade between Kenya and UK. UK stands for the United Kingdom. Trade between Kenya and UK, this one we are not going to call it local trade. This is external trade, which is also known as international trade. Kenya exports her flowers from Kenya to UK, and UK exports medicine from UK. They bring the medicine to Kenya. This type of trade is the one that we call external trade. And another name of external trade is international trade. External trade or international trade. Also within African countries, I'm not saying that international trade should be between Kenya and European countries only. No. Kenya and South Africa, that is still international trade or external trade. Kenya and Ethiopia, that is still external trade. Uganda and China, that is international trade. We have got Japan and Italy, that is still external trade. So external trade is a trade between a country and other countries. So those are the two forms of trade that we are supposed to know: internal trade and external trade. External trade is a trade between countries, while internal trade is a trade that takes place within a country. A trade which takes place within a country is the one that we call internal trade. Class 7, we are majorly going to focus on regional trade organizations in Africa. So there is something called regional trade organizations. Within the African geographical area, within the African continent, the continent is divided into 5 major regions. Africa, as a continent, is divided into 5 major regions. If we have a map of Africa here, the one that I'm drawing right now, something like that. I know, as I always say, I'm not a perfect artist in terms of drawing, but I always try my best. And if my best is not good, sorry. So that is a map of Africa. So Africa, as a continent, is divided into 5 major regions, and that is West Africa, Southern Africa, Eastern Africa, Northern Africa, and then we have Central Africa. So we have got the Northern Africa, we have got the Western Africa, we have got the Southern Africa, and then we have got the Eastern Africa. So those are the 5 major regions that Africa is divided into. So in terms of trade, these regions, they have formed what we call trade organizations so that they boost trade within their regions. For example, Eastern Africa, they have got the East African Community, which helps in managing the issues within the region. When you go to Southern Africa, they also have their regional organizations. When you go to Western Africa, they also have the regional organization. When you go to Northern Africa, they also have regional organizations. So we have got different types of regional organizations, and some of them are trade organizations. So in Africa, we have got 3 major trade organizations. 3 major trade organizations. And they include, before I just give examples, we have to understand what regional trade organization is. Regional trade is a trade between countries in the same region. Countries which are found in the same region, when they practice trade, that is what we call regional trade. Example, Eastern Africa countries, they have got trade between Kenya and Uganda, Uganda and Somalia, Somalia and Ethiopia, Ethiopia and Rwanda, Rwanda and Burundi, Burundi and Tanzania. Such trade is what we call regional trade. Trade between countries which are found in the same geographical area. And examples of these trade organizations include: number one, we have got the common market for Eastern and Southern Africa. I just forgot to write in bracket. In bracket, it should be COMESA. In bracket should be COMESA. Common market for Eastern and Southern Africa. In bracket, COMESA. So as the name suggests, this is a regional trade organization for East African countries and Southern Africa countries. The countries within Eastern Africa and the countries within Southern Africa. We will see the members of COMESA later when we will be discussing about COMESA. Number two, we have got the South African Development Community. Southern Africa, not South Africa, sorry. Southern Africa Development Community, in bracket, SADC. So as the name suggests, This is a trade organization for countries which are found within Southern Africa. And then lastly, we have Economic Community for West African States. Economic Community for West African States. And that is ECOWAS. ECOWAS. So as the name suggests also, this is a trade organization for countries which are found within West Africa. So Northern Africa, they don't have a trade organization. We only have three major regional trade organizations in Africa. COMESA, which stands for Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa. We have SADC, Southern Africa Development Community. And then we have ECOWAS, which stands for Economic Community of West African States. And there is something that you have to know also, that the above organizations were formed mainly to improve trade. They were formed mainly to improve trade, so that trade within Africa as a continent can improve. And then all these organizations, they have got one major problem which they face. And the main problem facing all regional trade organizations class 7, the main problem facing all regional trade organizations in Africa is a similarity of goods, or production of similar goods. Production of similar goods is the main problem which faces the regional trade organizations. Good. Now, after that, I just want to end the lesson with a small summary here. This is a summary of regional organizations, not trade, sorry. Let me just erase this. It is regional organizations, because not everything in this map is, not everything in this table involves trade. EU is not for trade. East African Community, yes, it promotes trade, but it's not a trade organization. So the title should be a summary of the regional organizations. A summary of the regional organizations. So we have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have got 6 organizations which are found in Africa. So some of them are trade organizations, while others are not trade organizations. So I've given an organization, and then the headquarters, where the headquarters are found, and then the year when it was formed. And number 1 is COMESA. COMESA, I've said it stands for Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa. And the headquarters of COMESA are found in Lusaka, Zambia. Number 2, I have got SADC, which stands for Southern Africa Development Community. Southern Africa Development Community, and the headquarters are found in Gaborone, Botswana, and it was formed in the year 1979. And then we have got ECOWAS, Economic Community of West African States. Economic Community of West African, Economic Organization of West African States. And the headquarters are found in Lagos, Nigeria, and the year is 1975. That's when it was formed. And then, of course, this is again a Muchasoma Class 6. ESC, East African Community, you already landed in Class 6. And then we have IGAD, Intergovernmental Authority on Development. Of course, this one is also class 6. And then we have African Union, class 6 also, even though we are going to further discuss about the African Union in class 7. So we have got the African Union, whose headquarters are found in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and it was formed in the year 2003. So those are the regional organizations which are found in Africa, and that's what we are going to discuss. So the next lesson will start by one organization, COMESA, then the next lesson, SADC, and then lastly, we will end by ECOWAS. So make sure you copy those notes. And on Friday, inshallah, we'll be having a Zoom lesson whereby we'll be discussing about COMESA and maybe with SADC. Otherwise, have a good time and yeah, stay safe.